Hey humans, Real Jacob here. So as I had mentioned in a previous video, I think I've gone to a breakthrough. I've been working on this for a while, but just yesterday I put another piece into the puzzle and I said, man, I think I'm onto something here. I'm not in the medical community and I know nothing about medical research and things like that. And I know what I'm going to tell you is all empirical. But as it applies to me, since my 20s, I've gotten itchy arms. Primarily in the summer, primarily on my right arm, but sometimes on my left, and it gets pretty intolerable. Seems to be worse at night, and as I started to pay closer attention, it seemed to come on in the summer, in July, August. And back then I had a couple ideas for it. I thought, well, maybe I'm getting too much sun, because I was a landscaper at the time. I thought maybe it was dehydration somehow. I even wanted to blame two-cycle exhaust, because when I was a landscaper, I did a lot of the hedges. I did all the hedges, and I did most of the other trimming. So I always had like two-cycle exhaust up and around my arm. And since that was it, I thought, well, maybe, I knew nothing. Over the years, one other thought that occurred to me is also came on where I've had my worst bouts of childhood poison ivy. When you're younger, you wouldn't notice that stuff. You get into it, next thing you know. Plus, your skin is thinner. You got less hair to protect you, etc. And I thought maybe that had something to do with it. And so I would find out later I wasn't alone in that thought. So along came the internet, and I decided I was going to do more research on this, find out what the heck, because it was annoying. I would be up in the middle of the night scratching myself bloody. I would run scalding water over it sometimes, just trying to do anything to get that damn itch to go. But nothing seemed to work. And so I did some research, and I came up with neurodermatitis as my ailment. And wasn't 100% sure. You know how that goes, the old internet diagnosis. But then later, when I got on some of the insurance, and this was within, I want to say, the last 5 or 6 years, I was at the doctor and I brought this up to him. And he listened to everything, and I didn't tell him that I had diagnosed it with neurodermatitis. I didn't say anything. It's one of those moments where you wish you would have wrote that in your pocket, on paper, and put it in your pocket, because that's what he ended up diagnosing me with. He says, you have neurodermatitis. And I said, well, if that's true, there's nothing I can do about it. He says, no. He says, but I'll give you some cream that might, this lotion, it might help with a little bit of itch, but it doesn't really help with this neurodermatitis. It might help, give the skin some relief because of all the scratching you're going to do. I said, okay, nothing you can do about it. Best thing you can do is just not scratch. You know how impossible that seems. So anyway, I was having a bad bout of it one summer, and I got picked up. Can't even remember for what. I mean, I'm not out committing crimes, people. This is going to be it would have been for some nonsense, either when I didn't pay an attorney, or when I did get on probation, they used to jerk me around a lot. For whatever reason, they'd pick me up, put me in jail. And they asked me the questions, and I said, well, hey, and I'm usually a real asshole about it, but I said, hey, I'm using lotion every day because I got this skin ailment, and I'm going to need that, trying to make it tough on them, really. And that night, the gal came back at 9 o'clock meds, and he says, Jacob, we have some lotion here. It wasn't my prescription or whatever, it was some kind of lotion. And she said, if you'd like some, here you go. Which, not typical of Vernon County Jail. I can tell you that. That's not typical, that you mentioned something and then that night they're actually going to do something about it. So, I said, hey, you know what? It's not bothering me at all. I got to give credit to this unnamed female jailer at Vernon County. I said, it's not bothering me at all, and it had been all, the last week or whatever. And she says, sounds like allergies. That might have been before the doctor diagnosed me. I can't remember. At any rate, then I have a friend. And over the course of a conversation, he had mentioned that he gets itchy arms where he used to have poison ivy. So he had also kind of, in his mind, made this connection like, hey, this poison ivy is somehow causing me this years later lingering itch. And seems implausible, right? All right, like I said, I'm just telling you as I figured this out. So the first tip was I was in jail where all the air coming in, by the time it gets back to that pod, is going to be filtered. You're not getting a bunch of the pollen, etc. And then one summer, I think it must have been just last year, it was kind of bad. And I said, hey, I'm going to try taking an allergy pill. I forget the cheap stuff that they sell. It's in Benadryl, the regular over-the-counter stuff. They actually use the same thing in Tylenol PM because it makes you drowsy. And they use the same thing in the sleep aid products. So this begins with a D. You people know I'm talking about, that they use in allergy medicines. So I took one, paid attention. About the time you'd expect it to kick in, 20-30 minutes later, it seemed to work. So this year, I start to get them, and each time, I take an allergy pill, and it seems to work. Now, sometimes I don't take it until it's like, okay, it's really starting to bother me. I don't like take it preemptively. Like I said, it's usually in the evening. I'll wake up in the middle of the night sometimes, and that itch is just driving me crazy. Well, for the last week, 10 days, pretty much every evening, start to get that itch, preemptively take a pill. If I don't, I'll wake up in the middle of the night, and again, have to take the pill, or just scratch myself. Well, then, we had a day of rain. Just kind of rained all day. And, that night I didn't have any itch. None. And the rain is going to wash the pollen out of the air. And so that was the other link that makes me think this is an allergic reaction. Why? I don't know. Does it have to do with water memory or cellular memory? All these skin cells would have been replaced over the years. So why would they, if I breathe in the pollen, is it triggering it, being like, hey, we've detected that thing again. Make it itch so he scratches it away. Now, this is in my case. I honestly think that me and the doctor were giving the correct diagnosis as the medical establishment knows it today. But they're not first checking for an allergy or seeing if taking a antihistamine, whatever it is that they put in the Benadryl and the dollar store allergy meds, that works. And if it is, why? And perhaps it's not going to work in every case of neurodermatitis. Maybe there is something else going on. But all I know is I can take that little pill in the evening. When I have taken the Tylenol PM, I got to say they've helped me sleep. I don't want to become dependent on anything like that, but man, I think it's not just the back pain, helping relieve the back pain. I think it is that drug that's in there. It does help you sleep, and it does help with allergies. And in my case, it seems to help with my neurodermatitis. So if you've been diagnosed with that, or even if you haven't, if you get itchy arms, especially in the summer, in the evening, you don't know why. I'm not going to say it's completely harmless, but I don't think it can be too harmful. Try one of those allergy pills and see, pay attention 20, 30 minutes, see if it helps. I was going to do like the diary thing where you write down when it itches and the conditions and all of this and the dates. But I just started to keep track in my head. And that's how I started to realize that it was like a summer thing. July, August, primarily, although sometimes in the winter, oddly enough. But yeah, I could be picking up pollen but so far it always works. During the day I get it, but it seems to be pretty mild and passing. But so far so good. So if you're a medical professional, dermatologist, whatever, maybe this has already been discovered. Maybe doctors haven't gotten all the latest and greatest research. Or sometimes the research is done and it just doesn't get spread far and wide. Doctors don't hear about it. Or it says, well, that was one study. We'll wait till we get 5 studies. But could bring relief to your patients if you tell them the next time, have them document when they're having it, and then have them take a simple over-the-counter allergy pill. Oh yeah, sorry, I keep forgetting I got the camera on me. It's probably staring at my shoulder. And see if it brings any relief. I hope it helps somebody. So far, it's been helping me. All right.